on the board as well since the beginning. And together with a group of fantastic rising stars, I'm in charge of the Tribe Global Academy, a platform that helps us to share knowledge and give you inspiration from the best in the industry. And this morning, we're happy to welcome Colin Spence from Glasgow. He joins us from Glasgow this morning, who spent his night getting his browser working, and it worked out. Here we are. It works. No, we're really seriously, Colin. I'm really happy to have you here today for this call. Maybe just a quick note about Colin. So he's been in the business for 25 years, more than that, and he has his own agency, Material, in Glasgow for 21. Started in 2003. Very active in everything that is experiential and audience engagement projects. Some really great projects he worked on, like the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, MTV Europe Music Awards, UEFA European Championship, etc. So really some great projects that his agency have worked on over the last years. So over the last years, he focused more and more on immersive technology that can deepen audience experience, as he gave me a note here. Interesting story. Why did we get in touch with Colin? Actually, Colin got a certification by B Corp. And we talked about Colin, and the first contact with Colin came about, okay, I think David and Ian have known Colin for quite a number of years and worked together with him. So the contact had been in place. And then the idea was, let's talk about B Corp, because we have more and more agencies in the network that certify, that get certifications in the area of sustainability, trying to improve clearly their approach to the market, the sustainability in what they do, everything that's corporate social responsibility, etc., the way they lead people, the way they work with clients, environment, etc., all the pillars of sustainability. So we said, let's talk to him and see if we could do a masterclass on B Corp. And what developed out of there was really very, very interesting, because Colin shared with us the way that through B Corp and through overall sustainability, he had updated the entire service portfolio of his agency. And that today sustainability was almost something that was transverse in everything that he's doing. And more his agency is working with clients to help them onboard the sustainability idea, infuse sustainability in what they do. So everything that Colin's agency does today is somehow earmarked by sustainability elements. And then when we said, let's forget B Corp as such, can be part of it, but let's rather see how overall sustainability can give you a positive power as an agency and as a service provider in our industry. So Colin, thank you very much for preparing this presentation this morning. Thank you very much for being with us. And I can tell you, I'm really, I'm impatient to discover what you're going to share with us, because also in our agency, for example, it's a very hot topic right now. So thanks for being there, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. And hello, everybody. Unfortunately, due to my steampunk browser, I can't see you, but I'm waving, and thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I've learned much about Tribe from some of your board members, principally Ian, Daniel, and David, and you all clearly share the same impressive independent spirit that makes for brave, successful, and progressive marketers. For this reason, the presentation today is not one I would not ordinarily share with clients. It's far more candid, it's agency to agency, and hopefully more relatable for you all, as we're all united in this kind of common experience working at independent agencies. Now, a disclaimer before I begin. I'm the founder of an independent agency to tell you about how we pivoted from a wholly experience-based agency to a service offering with social and environmental sustainability at its core, helping brands and businesses on their net zero journeys. But to be clear, we're not activists, we're not political in any way. We will help those who are serious about making a difference on the way they do business, but we're not willing to be used as a means of deflection, of obfuscation. What we do subscribe to is science and facts. And I must, and this is really the disclaimer, I must completely respect that all our approaches to climate change and sustainability are shaped by our own lived experiences. So I completely respect that this will be very different for each market and region. And I would not presume today to patronize any of you with advice or guidance in this presentation. what I'm really talking about is the way that the challenges of climate change manifest themselves in different ways and to differing degrees. And you will have different economies, and you'll have different legislation and different compliance and different cultural norms and attitudes that will provide a wholly different set of guardrails to the ones that we operate in the UK as an independent, as material. But what I will talk to you about today is the challenges, impacts, legislation, attitudes, opportunities around sustainability through the lens of a Scottish creative agency working with a wide variety of UK clients, from global sector leader like the Macallan to a local arts charity and everything in between. And I do hope that you at least get an understanding of the challenges UK businesses face, and maybe there are some transferable learnings as how we can positively influence your clients' work. And there might even be an opportunity to collaborate, because certainly from our experience, sustainability is a journey that has to be shared. It has to be taken together. So thanks for the introduction, Daniel. Just to expand upon who we are as a bit of background, we started out as a spin out 21 years ago, focusing solely on music sponsorship. We then moved that into sport and culture in general, and we became involved into an experiential agency. We massively believed in the power of passion marketing, the power of permission marketing, the ability of brands to add value and truly connect through immersive experiences. And we continue to hold that dear. What we're doing now, though, is kind of adding a layer of purpose and sustainability into our work. So in the past, before we had this discrete offering of social and environmental sustainability, we also used to have purpose running through all our projects. So, for example, we were the first large-scale music festival in 2007 with Tea in the Park. It's a 90,000 person a day festival to become carbon neutral. Now, that seems ages ago. That's nearly 20 years ago. We were integral in persuading the Scottish Government to donate proceeds of crime money for youth community football. We worked with one of our financial services clients to give free pitch time to kids, which reduced crime rates. And through our work around the Olympics, we gave every kid in Scotland, every school kid in Scotland, the chance to try an Olympic sport. So purpose has been consistently, kind of marbled through what we've done. And these are just a selection of our clients. We work for rights holders, we work for brands, we work for government, we work for federations, we work for charities. And, over the years, we've been fortunate enough to win awards at European, UK and Scottish level, as well as being #1 small place to work in the UK and #1 place to work in Scotland. But our own sustainability journey can be kind of pinned to two specific things that happened more recently. One was a brief we took in 2019, where a client asked us to look to exemplify their sustainability credentials through a partnership. That could have been with water or wood or energy, but we decided to stop them right there. They were being very, how can you say, subjective. They decided they were sustainable. How could they substantiate that? So we started to look at, well, how can you benchmark? How can you audit a client, a business? How can you understand if they are sustainable or not? And we went back to basics and created a benchmarking framework for brands and businesses using existing academic principles that we'd adapted. And we started to look at the brand's sustainability credentials in material areas, the areas that were valuable to them. So water, transport, packaging, these kind of things. And we started to look at their declared strategies, their actions and their communications. And we benchmarked them against the best in sector and the best globally. And the presentation to the CMO at that time was a real moment. What we saw from our work was an eye opener. It was an epiphany for them. They put the brakes on the project, and they went back to basics and asked us to develop with them a sustainability strategy for their brand. And that, changed the course of the discussion, as I say, from a project to the creating a strategy, creating goals, setting up a working group, identifying internal champions, mobilizing agencies. And since then, we have grown our expertise in the services we offer in this area with that client and expanded that out and the transferable learnings to other clients. So that was back in 2019. The second milestone for us was winning the pitch to deliver COP26 in the UK. It took place in Glasgow in 2021, but the pitch was 2020. And we were one of only 3 businesses that were part of the winning tender to deliver COP, which was a massive undertaking. And I'm not going to lie, we didn't do the lion's share. We were the smallest party by a stretch, but it was still an incredibly eye-opening, motivating, energizing project to put on this huge undertaking. It was bigger than any event we'd worked on before, including the Olympics. It was taking place in the pandemic. It was a movable feast. We had to learn a whole lot more about sustainability in a very short space of time. And this accelerated our learning around climate change and the need for positive sustainable actions, and especially the different approaches to tackling the issue, from top-down systematic change, large business, government, to bottom-up mass behavioral change, so consumers and customers. And what is the role of brands and businesses in the middle in terms of influencing decisions that can drive sustainability forward? At this juncture, a good book I would recommend to anyone who wants to have a more positive view on the climate emergency, if you will, is The Future We Choose, Surviving the Climate Crisis by Christiana Figueres. She's one of the architects of the Paris 2015 Climate Agreement. And it's a great book filled with optimism for change. And I think it's a necessary read for people who want to contribute to the challenges. Anyway, I digress. So these experiences gave us as an agency the confidence to build our competence and take it to market. But we also needed to demonstrate that we were committed as a business to improving our standards in terms of social and environmental impact. How could we credibly advise clients otherwise? Why would they listen if we could not demonstrate our own commitments? So we set on our own journey. We became signatories of the SME Climate Hub, which subscribes to the United Nations Race to Net Zero. And we followed this up with publishing our own net zero plan, which is available on our website. And then we became a B Corp ourselves, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. One thing that stuck with us while we were working on COP was this quote by Sir David Attenborough. If you know him, he's a famous naturalist and conservationist. And what he's saying here is saving our planet is now a communications challenge. I should qualify it as saving the planet as we know it and as we enjoy it. The planet will be fine. Us and other life on the planet is what's in jeopardy. So what we're trying to do is preserve the planet as we like to enjoy it. Now, that is a communications challenge. And we found that really, really kind of empowering. What he's saying is we have the resources at hand, energy, food, water, be it whatever, to continue to enjoy the planet as it is. However, to succeed, we need to change the way that we live. And that is a communications challenge. And for a communications agency, that was a light bulb moment. Suddenly we had a role to play. We weren't just marketers. We were fundamental to the solution to these challenges. Now, government, business, and citizens all have the power to influence positive behavioral change and effective communications can change that. So as a communications agency, we felt so empowered, as I say, and motivated and energized. But equally, what I'm saying to you today is you all have that superpower as well. And never has it been more important or needed. So what do we actually do at Material? In short, we turn the technical into the accessible. We found that many businesses have sustainability reports or ESG reports. more often briefed by and prepped for operational departments within a business, carried out by external consultants. And these are great for measurement, telling you, how much carbon you're pumping out, what resources you're using, but they're not actionable plans. This data needs to be turned into an actionable plan. And in many cases, our clients are unable to turn these reports into a strategy and unable to effectively engage the necessary stakeholders to deliver that strategy, be it colleagues, shareholders, customers, or consumers. We, as Material, we can help with that. So this is the bit that we undertake for our clients. We interpret the reporting recommendations and findings. We are interpreters. We turn data into narrative. We make sense of reporting in a way that each stakeholder group can understand. A shareholder will speak a different language to a customer, for example. So each has to be interpreted in a different way in order to engage the stakeholders to deliver and execute. We work with clients to develop strategy and comms plans that are right for them, for their business, and for their sector. Everything we do is tailored, and I'll return to that later. Now, much like any creative agency, we have a team that comprises insight, creative, and account handling, delivery. But we also have a wider network we tap into when needing specialisms. We work with academics, principally futurologists, who look at climate change as a societal phenomenon and what that can mean for our cities and communities in the future. And we also work with environmental consultants to check our homework, so to speak, and provide the technical advice where clients require it. We know we're communicators, we're not scientists. Now, our work covers the full spectrum from strategy creation to campaign execution. Our starting point is always to organize our clients' thinking. It's remarkable how much good work is already being undertaken. Our clients just don't know it or don't have the confidence to communicate it. The fear of climate shaming is a key restrictor here. If you don't put your head above the parapet, you cannot be found at fault. Or can you? Green hushing has joined greenwashing as an equally dishonest practice. The actuality is that nobody is perfect. Yes, we must all be compliant, and our team can very much help with that. Although compliance will vary market to market and is constantly changing. But the reality is that as long as you have a plan with goals and targets that you can report with honesty and transparency, then you will be accepted by your stakeholders. Sustainability is a level that we will never complete, a destination we never reach. It is an ongoing and evolving process. That's why this expression, progress, not perfection, is so important. Also, we need to pare back what's expected of brands and businesses. There is a tendency for them to take on too much in the misguided belief that they're expected to save the planet. This weight of expectation can cause them to freeze, or worse, it can spur them on to make overstatements and claims that they can never fulfill. We work closely with them to simply focus on their own sphere of influence, what they are directly responsible for, and what they can meaningfully affect. It may be packaging waste, distribution footprint, scarce resource usage. Whatever the materiality is for that particular business or brand, that is their and our focus. And we ask ourselves, how can we mitigate, how can we influence, tackle, and solve these areas? And when we do come to communicate, we use a very different type of language. I'm generalizing here, but I assume we've all been used to a certain way of behaving in marketing at some point. For many, it's a zero-sum game. One brand's gain is reflected in the losses of the competition. We are programmed to win, to dominate the competition, and that comes through in our communications, where we strive to be number one and communicate that success. With sustainability, there is no winner. We either all win or none of us do. Therefore, communications should be humble, simple, clear, and substantiated. There's no place for hyperbole in this space. Credibility and trust are key, but we can still have optimism. It is important we convey confidence and ambition for what we're doing. So going back to the analysis that we ran with our very first client, we started to look at other best-in-class businesses and sustainability, in their sector, and as I say, globally. And over time, we've appraised almost 100 of the world's leading brands with our framework. And, we compare and score their expressed behaviors and review what it takes to build confidence, trust, and competence in the arena of environmental sustainability. Ultimately, what we've learned was that the actions and communications of best-in-class brands follow 3 specific progressive behavior phases: establishing, influencing, and leading. To look at these more closely, establishing behaviors is kind of taking care of your own business impacts and emissions. Influencing behaviors is engaging others in initiatives to further your goals. And leading behaviors are solving broader issues, industry-wide perhaps, sharing knowledge and learnings for the benefit of all. And these behaviors also translate perfectly as a model for communications. So let's take a look at these. Ultimately, we learned that the actions and communications of best-in-class brands follow the 3 specific progressive behavior phases. Establishing behaviors must focus on your current environmental credentials and targets. You establish your own sustainability report card, your strategy, compliance, reporting, positive actions, targets, objectives, and progress to date. You develop an informational source for customers that is as specific as possible at any given time across material areas of impact such as emissions, energy, waste, water, community engagement, charitable works, the circular economy, and so on. Typically, you might communicate these credentials through long form on your website, internal communications, and possibly some socials, always driving back to your website. In terms of influencing, these behaviors build on strong informational foundations. This phase focuses on engaging customers, going beyond just discussing these topics internally and with key business stakeholders such as investors and financiers. Storytelling is used to create a body of proof points of initiatives that arise from your strategy and address your particular mid and long-term spheres of influence. At this point, it's also likely that your initiatives will involve collaboration with key local partners or communities. You're demonstrating a strategy in motion and development. You evolve your communications to engage across more channels, socials, news, PR, webinars, blogs, and radio all come into play at this point. And then ultimately, leading behaviors. They're not essential. They're something that we aspire to. And a lot of brands see that as an ultimate goal. So they can see you focusing on solving broader industry-wide problems. Innovation communications focus on areas in which you're breaking new ground, working with others to tackle problems outside of your business, but common to your category or industry. You may be collaborating directly with other innovators or bodies or supporting those who are directly tackling these bigger issues. You've moved beyond your own problem solving and entered a phase of environmental altruism or active innovation. It's where sustainability is a driver of open source innovation from which the majority can benefit. But that's the goal. Open source is probably the ultimate expression of leading in terms of sustainability. With respect to communications, we're going a stage further here, building on the storytelling and often focus on broader industry-wide trade and B2B channels. We're now established and recognized as a thought leader, and we may start to generate earned media interest in the form of interviews, editorial, and comments. You start to apply and start to receive awards. You may be open sourcing your learnings to advance your industry as a whole via blogs, panels, conferences, and industry body platforms. So this is a kind of 3-stage approach. Not all our clients sit in one bucket, and it's our job, if they have the ambition, to move them from left to right with the work that we undertake. So let's look at some case studies that might bring that to life. The first one is, check my time if that's okay, guys. The first one is Bridge of Weir Leather. They're actually a client of ours now. Bridge of Weir Leather supply leather to the automotive and air industries. They have very high-end clients, that you would count Aston Martin, Bentley, Mulberry even in that portfolio. They produce luxury, low-carbon leathers and have been at the forefront of the automotive industry for over a century. They make the world's lowest carbon leather and are renowned for innovation. They're a very good example of establishing communications as they are transparent across every aspect of their business, the role of people, planet, and how they do business. This is the contents page from their 2022 ESG report, which is available on their website. Clear on commitments and progress, and they align to the UN's SDGs, Strategic Development Goals, which is the color-coded boxes you see here. They have independently verified results and claims, so substantiation is key, such as the Leather Working Group and the British Standards Institution. Furthermore, establishing communications are defined by a solid foundation of credentials and targets, sharing strategy, goals, and progress. Bridgerwear do this really well in terms of the extent of their transparency, and also making it accessible to read and understand, with clear headers and graphics to visualize and navigate their sustainability journey and progress. A second, an example of influencing, we'll take a look at Mulberry, the luxury leather goods manufacturer. In 2021, they set out the brand's commitment to sustainability environmental actions in their Made to Last manifesto. It was launched as a full-page advertorial in The Guardian, communicated fully on a website, brought to life through in-store launch at London Fashion Week, and available communicated in-store and across social media channel. It sets out the aim to transform the business to a regenerative and circular model via the Mulberry Exchange, which features a buyback option where you can hand over your old Mulberry bag and it will be turned into energy to create new leather. Pre-loved, refurbishing and reselling pre-loved bags as a service, and rental with the Her Collective, the London-based rental platform where UK customers can rent Mulberry bags, creating an alternative to buying new. Now, this influencing work is then translated to executional work. So it was translated into content. They launched a Made to Last podcast linked to their first sustainability report, hosted by fashion journalist Susie Lau, and it invited all sides of debate on to discuss subjects around the leather industry. Furthermore, they created short-form specific content for TikTok, showcasing the repair and pre-love services, direct Mulberry channel and prepaid ad partnerships with media and influencers as well. So they're very, very good at not only influencing their customers, but talking about it in a well-substantiated and credible way. And then let's take a look at a couple of examples of leading brands and businesses. You may have come across Kering. Kering is a luxury house which owns Gucci, Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, Balenciaga, McQueen, Bryony, and more. And each year, Corporate Knights Global 100 Most Sustainable Corporations in the World Index is announced at the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland. Kering ranked 7th in the world today, which is an incredible achievement for a fashion group. Now, the key behaviors that they exhibit in leadership are taking on industry-wide problems, opens innovation and collaboration. To help achieve its goal of promoting broad awareness of environmental issues, Kering has developed My EP and L, My Environmental Profit and Loss, an app that instantly calculates the impact of typical items in our wardrobe. It is based on Kering's innovative EP&L methodology, and it was initially designed to educate students in the fashion industry as a tool to integrate sustainability in the creative process right from the start. It is open source and available to anyone who wants to use it. Now, that includes other fashion manufacturers. They can use this technology. They can use to see what they use, what the footprint is of different manufacturing techniques, different materials, different locations. So this is a fantastic demonstration of open innovation and leadership. The EPL methodology has been developed as an open source app for consumers and competitors, sharing learnings and solutions for all. It piloted the launch with the Parsons School of Design in New York, so a great piece of collaboration. It is a decision support tool to empower designers and consumers to access and compare the environmental impact of their products. Although this could be proprietary to Kering, in the ethos of true sustainability leadership, they have made the methodology of EP&L tool open source to any company interested. It's such an exceptional example of live interactive sustainability measurement. It's empowering and informing consumers via true transparency of supply chain impacts, but also empowering competitors to do the same. The dedication, ethics, and values that underpin Kering's innovative EP&L work are impeccable. And finally, in terms of this is actually leadership as well, not influencing, is Chivas Brothers. The maker of brands including Chivas Regal and the Glenlivet make the expertise and learnings from its successful integration of enhanced heat recovery technologies open source so other distilleries can use it. This happened in the summer of 2023, following heat recovery installation at Glentocher's site in Scotland, and they decided to provide the insights from this to the benefit of industry at large if it's adopted at other suitable distillation sites. So to date, these have reduced total energy consumption by almost half at their distillery in Speyside, reducing the site's total carbon emissions by 53%, which is an energy saving equivalent to powering 5,000 UK homes, more than all the houses in the local town for an entire year. Now, to open source that is, again, a fantastic demonstration of leadership. The quote from the CEO outlines their belief in collaboration and collective ambitions to meet net zero targets. You know, leadership behavior has the ability to earn media and drive brand fame, as we can see from the coverage it generated in the Scotsman news site. So again, it can be rewarding in different ways. While we feel we might be helping our competitors, as they say, as the water rise, all the boats rise together. So more specifically, you know, about us material and who we do it for and how. We have a consultancy offering, and we work with larger businesses in this respect. Typically, you know, working with an existing sustainability leader team. We're there to support, provide counsel on how to interpret, prioritize, engage your stakeholders to execute. And these are just some examples of the services that we offer. What I should make clear is that we are very collaborative. We do not carry out all the executional work. We do, you know, we will make the odd film. We've built a virtual pub for a global brewer that's interactive and tells a sustainability story. We've made films and explainer animations, but we know our limitations, and we're more than happy to brief other agencies, and indeed we do for some of our clients. We're not acquisitive. We play nice in the sandpit and stick to our part of the value chain, which, as I say, is the interpretation, prioritization, and stakeholder engagement. The executional piece we're happy to share. And, you know, a relevant example of that most recently would be some advice that we provided to one of your member agencies, Light Blue, in relation to a COP28 project last year. We didn't meet the client ever, and nor did we seek to do so. We were more than happy to help another agency in the way that they interact with their own client, you know. And then moving on, here's just an example of something that we do for the Macallan. We source, publish, edit, create a digital newsletter every quarter that goes out to their whole business globally. And it's something that we're about to flip into a public version. So again, demonstrating open source leadership. But in terms of internal comms, that's just one expression. We create learning modules for staff, induction pieces, write supplier guidelines. You know, there's a whole raft of pieces of comms that we generate as and when requested. And then at the other end of the scale, the other thing that we've done is we've kind of not productized, but we put our learnings into workshops. We're a great believer in teaching people to fish. Not everybody will retain us forever. We'd rather come in and empower the people within an organization to learn themselves, to take it forward themselves, to be sustainable, if you like, in their own work. And we've created workshops that look at compliance, looks at communications, generates action plans, provides specialist guidelines. There's variations on them, but what makes them hugely successful is that they're all tailored. So every workshop there's a pre-survey. From that survey, we understand whereabouts in terms of the degree of sophistication of learning there is in that organization. Do we pitch it to an experienced team, or is it somebody setting out in their sustainability journey? And we'll adjust the content accordingly. Similarly, we'll start to understand what their sector are, what are their pressures, what's their sphere of influence. So when they come into the workshop, we're talking their language. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about it in the language of brewing or transport or technology. We do not talk generically about sustainability. We're finding it's an iterative process, and all the feedback that we get from our clients is telling us more and more that they're finding it hard to onboard just generic sustainability communications. It's a new language. They only speak one language, and that's the language of their business. So it's up to us to communicate sustainability on their terms so they can onboard it and start to build it into their business. So that's a key differentiator for us in terms of all the other people who are out there running workshops, which can be very generic, some can be Wikipedia, so it could be GPT. In terms of why we do it, so what's the motivations for us? So first of all, it's the needs of the market. Let's talk about that. The benefits of communicating your sustainability credentials clearly, it can be so powerful in terms of differentiating your business and supporting long-term growth, so you can build your reputation, you can set yourself apart, you can become distinctive, you increase your competitive advantage. Suddenly you qualify for more tenders. We're seeing more and more in the UK that you have to have a declared position in sustainability to qualify for government and public funded work. Equally, the clients we work with are putting quite strict supplier requests and for information onto their suppliers in terms of who they select to work with. So if you don't have a position, you're going to start losing out on business. That's just a fact. In terms of driving innovation and creativity, we've already talked about the communicating aspect, and lastly, the leadership aspects of the archetypes. As you start to problem solve, you start to engender a culture of innovation and creativity within your business. In terms of attracting and motivating and retaining employees, it's a no-brainer. We're starting to see, especially with Gen Z, how they are making more values-based decisions on where they work. It's not just about pound, shilling, and pence, the commercials. So you become, in terms of your employer brand, there's a huge benefit to this. And then finally, attracting investment. Again, our feedback from the marketplace is, companies that are owned by PE, they need to get their businesses shipshape if they're going to turn them at a profit, if they're going to sell them further down the line. Even if you're in it for a long-term investment, we're future-proofing a business. So it makes sense you're adding value by building in social environmental sustainability framework into your business. So the market need is clear. We're pushing at an open door here, and as things change over time, it's only going to become more of a necessity as we see more and more compliance being built in, whether at a local market level or a global level. We're going to have to get ourselves match fit in that respect. So there's definitely a huge demand, and we can see this borne out with, this is the Kantar Global Index, which is about 40 odd countries. And we can start to see how, important, the sustainability is as a priority for people, even set against things like, the economic hardships and the war currently. Equally, we can see that people see climate change as business's greatest responsibility. Now, that's not always been the case. Business and some nefarious businesses will project onto the consumer and say it's your fault, it's your individual choices. You've got to get your house in order. We don't subscribe to that. We see it very much as the role of business and brands to lead the way. And this projection is unfair. There's a really good book you might want to read called The New Climate War. And that's got a great piece on just the absolute, deliberate and systematic techniques employed by brands and business to force the responsibility for the climate emergency and sustainability onto the shoulders of consumers. And here's just some more data, explaining how, the expectation is that brands and companies should lead the way in this respect. Now, in terms of our motivation, that of Material, we're a collection of individuals, but we're kind of wrapped up in this catch-all called B Corp. And within B Corp, there's the concept of the triple bottom line, and that's a framework, for putting equal focus on three interwoven metrics, the impact, the social impact, the environmental impact, and the financial impact. And whilst we all, share that ambition within Material, it doesn't mean to say we don't have differing voices. And it'd be interesting to hear from the other B Corp agencies within Tribe, because we've had some ding-dong arguments about who we can and can't work with. And, people who I respect, I've worked with for over 10 years, we end up almost rolling about the floor fighting about, who are the right people to work with and who aren't. We had a debate about an energy company recently. Now, it's to such an extent we've created a kind of code of practice that we follow, the steps that we have to do to research a business, how we benchmark them. And if there's a kind of deadlock, a tie break required, if you like, we will go to a third party to provide a view upon whether they are the right or wrong people to work with. What I can tell you from my perspective is that working only with the good guys is never going to solve the challenges we face. We have to help people transition to a better place, to a better way of doing business. They might not be in the right place right now, but we can accelerate that process. For me, the challenge is working out who is honest and maybe who isn't. And that is a very subjective piece of work. So like I say, I'd be interested to see, or hear from the other B Corp agencies on how you tackle that hot potato. What I will say though is, we want to do the right thing, basically, as a business. We have it in our values, togetherness, progressiveness. It's what we all believe in, to a person. So we're happy to do this work and do more of this work. And what we're finding now is we're starting to flip what we've learned in social environmental sustainability back into the work that we did before. So, we're looking at working with music promoters on their sustainability actions. We're looking at working with venues. We've just written a strategy for Scottish football. All sorts of things that we're opening our eyes to, and we're doing off our own bat. We're not paid for this. What we're trying to do is demonstrate our own leadership. For example, we send out a quarterly net zero news that we post on LinkedIn as a resource for other people, agencies, government, brands, whatever. And I guess there's one project that maybe exemplifies that we want to, Material, walk the walk in terms of leadership. And it was a project we did at COP 26 in Glasgow, and is now being used as a resource in every school. We've given it to the schools department in Glasgow, and it's used in every school, primary and secondary. And they built something like 12 lessons around this asset. Now, I do have a video for that, but because I've got Ask Jeeves as a browser, or Yahoo, or some archaic browser that's not working. I'm not able to play the video to you, but I've given it to Elaine, so I'm just going to ask Elaine if that's okay, if you've managed to download the video, and if we indeed have 5 minutes to watch it, which I think we might just have.
Yes, I do. Let me just pull up the video just now.
Okay, I should come out screen sharing. I should somehow do that. Which, but there we go. Yes. That okay?
Great. Can everyone see the video?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to play it now.
How do we tell the climate emergency? Through their community, their city, something that people care about.
Oh.
I'm Colin Spence, the founder of Material, a communications agency based in Glasgow. We've worked on things like Commonwealth Games, MTV Awards, Olympics, the Euros, and latterly COP. We ended up being the creative lead for the Green Zone, which is the public zone, and we try and bring to life the issues at hand. One thing that we couldn't help but notice, the way COP was being characterised, we sensed the need to be a more powerful message of optimism. And then we started to realise, well, how do we engage more people in it? In fact, how do you engage anybody in the climate emergency? And what we started to realise was that the climate emergency was two things. One, it was a time-deferred event, so people could put it to the back of their minds.
Oh.
The other thing was that it seemed quite abstract to a lot of people. So how do we make it more relevant to our audience, the people of Glasgow? And how do we make it more immediate? We believe visualisation is the strongest way to do that. By showing a future that people cared about, portraying a successful transition to a low-carbon city and a failed transition to a low-carbon city. That future had to be credible. Now, we're experts in communication, but we are not environmental scientists or futurologists. We came across Climaginaries. I previously met one of their cohort, Professor Graham MacDonald. Climaginaries project is an international project with a view to thinking about how we would anticipate, narrate and confront the threat and opportunities that climate change might bring. We just got talking about his work for COP26, what he was calling at that point the VIDI project, which was an amazing opportunity to think about some of the academic practices that we'd used and put them into practice. What was a really good discussion was, when is the timeline going to be? So we decided around 2150, because of course that was the moment of choice for net zero for various different policy campaigns, with a digital infrastructure placed in front of people in order for them to get the kind of reactions that we anticipated, which was, it won't really be like that, will it? Or how can it really be like this? And then say to them, this is credible. The feedback was fantastic, and that got us thinking about, is there an application for VIDI beyond COP itself? One audience group that definitely stood out was the school kids. So we approached Glasgow Education Services and said, look, we have this tool. Would you be interested in using it in classrooms? And we got together with their Learning for Sustainability team, who were fantastic. And we took the images and they started to build lessons around that.
So our school was one of the first schools to pilot the VIDI resource in Glasgow. They loved it. We spent the first lesson that we taught, we actually spent about 15 minutes just playing with it. The children loved being able to see their city in a kind of future light, whether that be positive or negative. It was actually quite shocking to some of them, I believe. I think the fact that the resource is local to our city gives them that more real life impact and the opportunity to explore how they can make a change in their own city and not some abstract place. They wanted to know how they could fix it. They didn't want to end up that way. They wanted to know, how can I make this better? How can I make a difference just now? I think that for other children in other cities to be able to see what impact that could have on their city would make things click. It would make them understand the impact that climate change is going to have.
We need techniques that are different, and the way to do that is by grabbing the future, appropriating it, creating it realistically, credibly, and putting it in front of people's noses. And VIDI and the digital infrastructure that had been conceived here was a really great opportunity to do that. We hope with this case study that we've proven that it's a very effective communications tool. in terms of climate learning. The whole idea of VIDI is to create an optimistic future. We show a negative reality where we stand by and do nothing, but we major on what the art of the possible is.
Thanks, Elaine. That was it. It's ongoing at the moment. The project's live, but it's transferable. We can create a climate future for pretty much any major city around the world. And I think, you know, visualization is I maintain, is the strongest way for people to have an emotional connection and care about sustainability in general. And that's that. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we're on 10 o'clock.
Well, that was a very good planning, very good timing of your presentation, Colin. Thank you very much for this very insightful presentation. I think it's for me, it stands out to see how, as an agency, we can really absorb these concepts and not only use it as something we live, but also something we can share with the clients that are out there. So, if there's any questions among the people who are on the call, please raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask Colin a question. While waiting for that, maybe I'm going to ask one. We've been on it. We as an agency, we're a tiny country, tiny agency, but we've been interested by this topic for many years, and then we've seen two big challenges in this. So we're not B Corp, but the first challenge was the internal onboarding. You said that with the Gen Z, everybody's excited about this. Lots of people are looking for this. So already years back, we told people that having today we call it ESG. Before it was CSR. Approach would help you attract people, talent, and retain them. But we sometimes feel it's difficult in-house to really onboard people and to share the passion with them, because they're very often very interested in their job, of course, etc.
Yes.
But as soon as it comes to this, save the planet, do something good, diversity. For example, we signed something, an initiative. It's called the Diversity Charter here in Luxembourg 2 years back, and we need to give it life. And then we haven't really succeeded yet to do it. But also B Corp. How do you onboard people within the agencies that it really is more than just a superficial story?
Yeah, it was. It kind of fell in at the same time we were doing a bit of branding work on ourselves and looking at the way and part of that was we did a bit of values-based branding, where we spoke to we did a bit of values work with everybody in the agency and took on board how they saw the agency, how they saw themselves, and it fitted really well. And again, though, we are. This framework we've applied to ourselves. So we are focusing quite narrowly. We're not trying to be all things to all people. We're trying to do the things that we can affect change on. And that comes back to the sort of David Attenborough thing, is if it's a communications challenge and we're communicators, that's really empowering, right? If that's the bit that needs solved, or the bit that needs to be activated, and that's what we all do, then that's really exciting. And there was nobody, even the older people, there's nobody who fought against the B Corp idea. It was an expression. It was like we were trying to find a way of expressing how we see ourselves as an agency, and B Corp was the thing that fitted, if that makes sense. So we knew that we were doing the right things, that we had the right approaches, we had the right policies at work. We've got a great staff handbook. We've got, ways that we treat ourselves and treat our colleagues and treat, it's all there. But we needed something that was recognizable externally, that was a kind of shorthand, and that was B Corp. That's why we went for it. It was a heuristic. It's a way of seeing very quickly a million things.
That's a very good way to visualize it all. I think that's a good thing. On your client side, also we tried with a couple of clients over the years to discuss these topics. And what is your perspective on the state of play today? Because years ago the question was always, okay, we want to do this. This is all very interesting. Yeah. Although we work for an electricity company, and their CEO would say, well, we could do all that, but we will not sell 1 kilowatt hour more if we do this. And that was the question. Do they sell any kilowatt hour more? And then people would say, yeah, let's do it. But who's going to pay for it? Is this corporate communication? Is this sales communication? Is this HR communication to attract So who's in charge of it? Is it top management? Is it transfers? How does that work today? Is there a more grown-up attitude from companies to
yes,
financing it?
I think so. We're finding more and more we're working with the business, the business, not the brand. And you know, you'll have a chat with the FD, you'll have a chat with the head of ops. Where the pressure's applied, though, is the owners, it's the shareholders. So whether that's BlackRock or whether it's private equity or what, you know, they're the ones that will be looking for this to be embedded because there's a latent value in having a position. What you're basically saying is, yes, it's slow capital. Yeah, it's going to take a while before you see a return, but it's securing the long-term future for your business. And there is a sea change we're seeing from people, the owners are wanting this in place rather than people who are running the business. So it is changing. Yes, I agree with you, Daniel. There's a massive pressure on, you know, the usual cliches of we haven't got enough resource, we haven't got any more budget. It's seen as a cost center, not a revenue stream, obviously. But there is long-term capital in it. There's long-term equity. There's chats of, you know, can you look at a different P&L for a business? Is there a kind of social or environmental equity that we can put a price on? So it is changing and it is getting better. We're also, you know, there's fundamental things like the people who are in charge of it, they didn't join that business to be the sustainability manager. They probably worked in sales, or they worked in, you know, they handled a plant or a factory, and they've been given this as a brief. But what we're seeing now is there's a new generation coming through who are specialists in this field who understand it. And they're far more literate, and they can see the value, and they can articulate it in the way of, well, you're going to get better people working for you. You're going to get more, and you know, I'll come back to the benefits of it. People are starting to get locked out of pitches and tenders and contracts because it's all being passed down the food chain. We want our suppliers, because the suppliers affect our sustainability footprint. So you've got to be greener, so to speak. Well, then I have to do that if I want that business. I'm going to miss out. And we're seeing that with, you know, public bodies like Events Scotland who hand out grants. We're seeing it with Creative Scotland who hand out grants. So it's also public money as well as private money. And also the reason we wrote a strategy for Scottish football is we know from data from the European Sponsorship Association, that lots of properties, whether, you know, be a team, a federation, a sport, whatever, will not be considered as a potential sponsor partner if they don't have a position on sustainability. So you're missing out on revenue. That's starting to manifest itself quite clearly. So before it was, you know, I'm contradicting myself here, it was seen as a cost and not a revenue stream, but it's more the opportunity cost of not doing it is how it has to be articulated.
Thank you very much, Colin. Sue, great. I see that you have a question or a remark.
Strangely enough, I think you may well have just answered it in a sort of roundabout way. So I recently returned from agency, having worked in ecom. So there's been so much talk about scopes 1, 2, and 3, and having to answer to scope 3. But I think that you just literally in your answer to Daniel just said that passing it down the line, that's that scope 3, yes?
Yes. Okay. And there will be things that are hard to solve, especially in where we worked, you know, so we work with venues and football teams, and, you know, how do the supporters get there? How does the audience get there? There's things that you can't change to, you know, like the government would have to change the transport system, and that's not going to happen overnight. So there's stuff that we just have to kind of accept that it is a long-term play. But certainly, yes, we're seeing it more and more. The business or the brand is putting it on their suppliers to get their house in order as well.
Yeah. So your clients are asking you to take up that.
You
are position scope 3 then, if you see what I mean.
Yes,
Okay.
we are, and we've actually got placement, a part-funded placement from Strathclyde, who's doing that exact job for our suppliers right now.
Okay.
So she's talking to the people who produce our assets for events, for example, or look at who our website our website host is, or all that kind of stuff is we're doing. Even though we're a small agency, we're undertaking that work too.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Thank you very much for the question. Any more questions? Because otherwise, I would say we break this up. Well, again, Colin, thanks very much. We'll talk to each other one more time late in the afternoon for the second session for another group of people. Thanks very much. Thanks to everybody.
Thanks for your time.
It's summertime. Enjoy the sun. Hope you're going to have a great holiday break, everyone. See you all soon, and see you in London at the latest for Tribe Global Annual Meeting. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Nick. Thanks, Spence.